1977 was a great year for science fiction movies. We had Star Wars in the spring and Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the fall. For a few years now, in fact, more than a few years, it's been fashionable in some circles to dismiss Steven Spielberg's work as a director. I've even met a few people who say they just won't go see his films. The reason they usually give for such a high hat attitude is his choice of material. It's too adolescent, too cartoony. What about Saving Private Ryan or Schindler's List or Lincoln? Oh no, that doesn't count. That's just Oscar bait, they say. I read a story somewhere, perhaps apocryphal, about two old time Hollywood master directors, people like Billy Wilder or William Wyler. They were watching Jaws at a Directors Guild screening, and when it was all over, one of them turned to the other and said, "He's the first one of us that does not think in terms of the proscenium arch." Well, I don't know if Spielberg was the first, but the point is well taken. Of course, I went to see Jaws because everyone went to see Jaws. But sitting in the Lowe's Astoria that summer day, I thought, wow, look at this. I don't mean the shark. I mean the setups, the narrative flow, the editing. Incredible. I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind opening day at the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood. Those were the days when the dome was all alone, sitting by itself on Sunset Boulevard. The lines had started the night before, but I figured the dinner show would probably be the last to sell out. And I was right. I made my way up to the dome by 4 in the afternoon, bought a ticket, and was seated by 6. I was a long-time master of the movie line. And the Cinerama Dome was the perfect place to see this movie, if you knew where to sit, which was orchestra center to the back row before the crossover aisle. Go further back in what might be called the dome's balcony section, and the screen bent downwards instead of around. It looked weird that way, like it had Peyronie's disease or something. I later read somewhere that Spielberg was in the projection booth all day fiddling with the sound. I don't know if that's true, but it comforts me somehow, as does the movie. This movie puts on a happy face, and we smile right back at it, despite Richard Dreyfuss's growing obsession with the vision that's been implanted in his brain, a vision that breaks up his family and ultimately clears the way for his final destiny. Years later, after Spielberg himself became a parent, he had major misgivings about this storyline. There's nothing bigger than parenthood, not even the mothership. Right from the beginning, we are treated to one amazing shot after another, but they don't take you out of the movie. Rather, they draw you in. The opening credit sequence ends with a boom, and we're in a desert somewhere in Mexico where a scientific team discovers a squadron of planes missing since World War II. Okay, this sounds like Bermuda Triangle stuff, but isn't this a movie about UFOs? I'm not into Bermuda Triangle stuff, and I don't believe in UFOs. Not in this neighborhood, anyway. The distances are just far too great. And didn't Arthur C. Clarke lay it all down on Charlie Rose one night? Sorry, guys, it's not happening. Doesn't matter. I'm already having a great time with this movie. And then there's this magnificent transition where we wipe to an airport controller screen. We hear the pilots and we see the controllers talking about a UFO sighting, but no one wants to file a report. And then we descend into middle class, middle of the country America, and nobody does this better than Steven Spielberg. We first meet Roy Neary in the family playroom, and Richard Dreyfuss is very engaging as the big kid that all dads have within them. His wife is played by actress Terry Garr, who I first saw in an old Star Trek episode. And I thought, who is this cute and funny girl? She stole the show, and I've been a fan ever since. And then Middle America starts to black out, and as Roy works for a local power company, he has to go to work. He stops at a railroad crossing, and this leads to one of the film's most brilliant visual gags as the headlights behind his truck suddenly go up. The audience laughed and broke into wild applause at that bit. Meanwhile, single mom Melinda Dillon soon discovers her son has run off into the woods after seeing something in the kitchen. The first appearance of the UFOs soon follows. Like North by Northwest, which Spielberg pays homage to in the Devil's Tower sequences, Close Encounters sags a bit in the second act, but we don't mind because the movie has long since earned our goodwill. The third act is one unending light show thanks to cinematographer Vilmo Zsigmond and special effects maestro Douglas Trumbull. But it's the heart behind it all that makes it work. When I walked out of Star Wars, I felt exhilarated. When I walked out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I felt enlightened. See you around the cosmos.